Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys, today's date, August 11th, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I host the most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before I do get started, I did there say we are trying to be a family-friendly podcast, so sometimes we do watch our language, but sometimes, hey, words fly, and the things that we may show may be of a graphic nature, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Before I get into it, like I usually go ahead and start with the first story, I gotta address this. It's been on my chest. It's been on my heart. I just gotta go ahead and say it. I open all dialogue. Truly, I do. But I just noticed that some people out there have this tendency of coming from my head, which like I said, I'm open to all dialogue and conversation. Truly, I am. That being said, if you can't have a conversation with me on a platform that is really for this type of conversation, keep it to yourself. I'm just saying. I could say names, but they know who they are. They know what they did, and it was just an inappropriate time for them to do it. So I say this. If you do want to talk politics, if you do want to talk daily events, if you do want to talk anything, or even disagree with me, which again, I'm open to debate. Do it here. Do it here. Do it in the comments. I can see the comments. Come to me. I usually say in all forms of format, please come to me. I will gladly have a conversation when the appropriate time. It just, when you do it in other venues and other podcasts that are not really for it, it just takes away from it. So I'm just saying, it's open season on me on How the Frack We Got Here, because again, I am going to be a little bit more vocal, especially about some of the stuff that's really been going on this week and that I need to address shortly. So with that being said, let's look at what happens when we decide that some of us decide not to be vaccinated and the situation doesn't improve.
It's surging across the U.S. Overflow tents are being set up outside LBJ Hospital in Houston, Texas, as we speak. All of this happening as the northern part of the state is down to only 2 pediatric ICU beds. And after banning mask mandates across Texas, Governor Greg Abbott is now asking hospitals to stop non-emergency surgeries to make room for COVID patients. Here's what healthcare workers in Texas and across the country have to say now.
To watch someone suffer for weeks, unable to eat, unable to drink, struggling for every breath, it changes you. I see these people over and over again when I try and sleep, suffering, and I hear, their last words. It's a big burden to bear to hear someone's last words, especially when those words are meant for their family who can't be there.
It's disheartening, and I know some nurses have walked away from it, and some have just picked up and said, I can't do this no more. When you overrun us and you wear us down and we get to where we can't come to work anymore, there's not going to be anybody here to take care of it.
I'm an emergency medicine physician here in Texas. When I walk into the emergency department, it honestly feels as bad, if not worse, than it did a year ago here in Texas. There are patients that I admit, 4 or 5 days ago that are still stuck in the emergency department because the hospitals and the ICUs are so full and so they can't move up. Most hospitals in large cities like Houston, Dallas, Austin are down to single-digit capacity when it comes to the number of ICU beds left.
For more on this, let's bring in Marcus Moore. He's in Houston, Texas for us right now. So, Marcus, we just heard the emergency medicine physician in Texas in that video say that things feel bad, if not worse, as last year. And according to the Texas Department of State Health Services, and you know this, there are more than 13,000 daily new confirmed cases in Texas right now. And according to HHS, more than 9,000 people hospitalized, and cases have soared 91% in just the past 2 weeks. So what can you tell us about what's being done and how this is impacting the state of Texas?
Well, Kira, certainly this is something that hospital officials, not only here in Texas, but across the country have been concerned about. And it's the reason why health officials have been urging people who have been hesitant to get vaccinated to go ahead and get the shot. Because what's happening now is it would seem that the Delta variant is aimed squarely at the people who are not vaccinated. And it is those people who have begun to fill the various ERs and ICUs spread across Texas and the South. It is so bad, Kira, that some of the emergency rooms here in this area, in fact, in the city of Conroe, which is just north of Houston, where we are, there's an ER that is temporarily closed because they don't have the staff to handle all of the COVID cases that have been coming in. And
think about that for a second. Now, I cut that off just because I wanted to bring up 2 points of what's going on. Number one, the Delta variant is exactly what we thought it was. And number two, it shows the other side of what we're experiencing, folks. And it's going to become a bigger problem because our health care system, mainly nurses, doctors, aides, doctors' aides, physicians, pretty much anybody that works in these hospitals are getting burned out. Now, if you don't know what burned out is basically where you are stressed beyond to the point to where you cannot properly perform the functions of said job. So now you got to think, doctors and nurses already...
Well, New York Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul is speaking out, saying she's prepared to take office as the state...
Quiet, you. Already, I'm like, I ain't even got that story yet. But anyway... What I was basically saying, for the simple fact of the matter, guys, doctors, nurses aides, and doctors' aides are pretty much being flamed out. You got to imagine when you're being burned out, especially nurses and doctors who work 14, sometimes 16-hour shifts. Now, for all those that don't know, nurses and doctors do work rotations of anywhere from 11 to 15 hours or even more. And you got to think, they've been working overtime since this pandemic has occurred last February. So burnout is bound to ensue. Even more so that now with this Delta variant, it's doing the same thing as it did once before. When we didn't pay attention, when a lot of people didn't pay attention to vaccinations, cases rose up, ICU capacity is gone, hospital beds are being occupied, and now they're getting to the point to where waiting rooms are being turned into trauma rooms. This is no longer a joke, folks. This isn't. I have been saying this. I will not stop saying this. For the simple fact of the matter is just that we need to start paying more attention. Yes, the unvaccinated. I am pretty much pointing all of you out at this moment. I am pointing all of you out, simply put, because no matter how you like to say this, you guys are the catalyst. You are. I had a conversation with a friend of mine about this on social media, and I told him flat out, because they will say, "Oh, well, the unvaccinated are the bad guys." Yes, if that's how you feel, that's your perspective, then yes, you are the bad guys. You are the big bad wolf of this story. Do you want to know why? It is easier because the simple fact of the matter is you guys can be carriers and don't know it. It wasn't just reported not too long ago that you could still have the COVID vaccine and still carry the virus. You can still carry COVID. You still could. But here's the thing, because I had to clear out a lot. I have to clear out a lot of things for this next story. Because there's a lot of misinformation, which I do have a story about that too. I know I'm kind of putting pins in different parts of what I'm saying, but just bear with me. The things I like to say about this simple fact is, first off, let's stop calling it a cure. It is a vaccine. It is not. It is basically designed to help you survive the coronavirus if you catch it. You have a greater chance of surviving it. It is not a cure. A lot of people are promoting. A lot of people are saying it's a cure. It's not. A lot of people are saying it's not FDA approved. No, but it is FDA authorized under special measures, especially in times of extreme pandemic situations such as the one we're in now. So, I had to explain that because, again, it was a conversation I'm going to get into much longer down the road. But, again, we are seeing this. And even it's not just Texas, not just the South. It's honestly all the places that we usually see where there are large groups, especially here in Tennessee. We just actually here in Nashville just had a Grand Prix. The first time we actually had a Grand Prix race in Nashville. Yay. But the problem is you had a whole bunch of individuals there all together, not wearing masks, no social distancing whatsoever. And we actually have a football club, or soccer if you prefer, that actually has games in the stadium. Again, open aired, no mask social distancing being enforced. And on top of this, football is around the corner, which means we're going to have Titans games, which again, open area, mass people, very little social distancing. Do I even have to scream super spreader events at this point? Do I have to? Because it's the truth. This is what's going to happen. And I hate to say it, and I hate to be that I told you so guy, but I told you so. Until we start to change some things, and until we start to get to the point to where we're going to go back, and yes, a lot of people hate when I say this, that yes, we are bound to go back to almost lockdown procedures. We're bound to. Because again, we're asking the public to get a free vaccination that a lot of people are going to ignore, and or even worse, say they're not going to do it because their freedoms are being taken away from them. Which again is still an asinine conversation. It's an asinine point, and I gotta get this out. I don't mean to go on this. I don't mean to go on this rant. I apologize. I usually am a little bit more objectionable, a little more objective. There we go. That's the word I want to use in this. But I just can't stand the actual thinking of some individuals where if you're unvaccinated, it's like, oh, well, my rights are being pushed against me. No, they're not. If anything, you are still being allowed to exercise your right. The problem that you're running into is that a lot of the consequences of what you decide to do is affecting others. If you choose not to get vaccinated, you are affecting others. That is the one part of this that a lot of people will not sit there and acknowledge, especially those among the unvaccinated. Oh, well, I won't be able to go anywhere I want to. You still can. But let me get this straight. The same freedom that you use to not get vaccinated, you're going to be mad that a business out there sit there and says, oh, well, we can't serve you because you're not vaccinated. You're going to be mad that the business owner exercised the same choice that you did? Because one group understands consequences, other group is willfully ignoring it. Tell me I'm wrong. Because again, this was, like I said, conversation I had with earlier where people was like, well, I just think that you're brainwashed and I think that you're programmed. For what? We follow facts and logic and science. You can't sit there with your head in the sand and hope to God everything that you're doing is working. Because again, going down the road, I got a story about a guy who did not listen until he got the virus. And I think, and I hate to say this for a lot of you, I hate to say this, but I think the only way you're going to get a whole bunch of people vaccinated is they got to have damn near 1 foot in the grave. And then once they realize they're on the verge of death, then they're going to be like, oh, well, I'll take the vaccine now. So you didn't take it when you were in danger, but now that you're one half away from pretty much being dead, you're like, okay, I'll take the vaccine now. Because I'll say this before I move forward. I have yet, and I do a lot of research, I have yet to see a story or an individual that didn't get vaccinated, got COVID, survived, and then still turned around and sat there and said, you know what, I'm still not going to get the vaccine. I have yet to see that. I have yet to see one individual say that. If someone able to find that, please reference the story to me and I'll check it out. But I've yet to see that. Why? Because almost everybody out there that's ran into this thing that was unvaccinated changed their tunes once they survived it. And I got plenty of stories to prove that. But anyway, moving forward, we do got to talk about Governor Cuomo, or I should say former Governor Cuomo, just because he literally got caught with his hands on women in appropriate times, and it's been more than one.
Tough means New York loving. And I love New York. And I love you. And everything I have ever done has been motivated by that love. And I would never want to be unhelpful in any way. And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do. Because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me, it's about we. Kathy Hochul, my lieutenant governor, is smart and competent. This transition must be seamless. We have a lot going on. I'm very worried about the Delta variant, and so should you be. But she can come up to speed quickly, and my resignation will be effective in 14 days.
Okay, so that was basically Andrew Cuomo, former governor, who, again, it's weird how he was found, because the Manhattan Attorney General did discover that Andrew Cuomo sexually assaulted more than 11 women, and counting, it seems, that he was found of sexual assault. And again, no means no in any form of the word. But here's the one thing I will say. I mean, Governor Cuomo at first wasn't going to resign, but 11 women all coming out, and then you're found to be validated by the Attorney General, it only made sense that he was going to step down. However, offending, I mean, you could tell the spin was on this one. Offending women, that's like, I made a mistake. No, dude, 11 women all claimed sexual assault, and it was found to be validated. It was more than just a mistake, sir. You have a pattern. You're that guy. You know what you are? You're the guy on Law and Order SVU that gets caught at the end and looks surprised that everybody realized that everybody realized, like, oh, it was you. You're the guy that Martishka Hardigay always gets at the end of all of it. I hope I pronounced her name right, but I apologize if I didn't. But again, it's that whole thing of, and I will say this, moving forward, it's amazing how quickly when Democrats are caught in the crosshairs, they immediately resign. I mean, not immediately, because sometimes it takes a while. Like Senator Al Franken, which, again, I still think that was BS, because somebody went, this was the time when people were going back through Twitter and through posts and tweets and all this stuff. And, of course, they found the one of Al Franken where he may have had an inappropriate picture with a comedian. That was enough for him to resign out of Congress, which I still think is a mistake. But, again, he was doing the honorable thing and was trying to maintain the integrity of the office by leaving. Andrew Cuomo took a little bit longer, but he did leave. That also, that also being said, it never ceases to amaze me about Republicans, because Republicans can dang near can almost be accused of murder, right? Mind you, accused of murder, and yet still remain in office. Don't believe me? I'll give you one prime example. Everybody remembers Rand Paul, right? Hopefully you're an eye doctor you never see, because your eye doctor is more concerned about Delta variants than your actual sight, which I still think is a scary thing. Anyway, so Ron Paul got suspended by YouTube over a video falsely claiming that masks are ineffective. Now you would think he is a senator. He just put out misinformation about the use of masks. He turns around and says, quote unquote, "It is a badge of honor. Left-wing cretins at YouTube banning me for 7 days for a video that quotes 2 peer-reviewed articles saying cloth masks don't work." He also claims most of the masks you don't get over the counter don't work. They don't prevent infection, and that cloth masks don't work. Keep in mind, he is a senator who turned around and put something on social media that was claiming misinformation. This is also the same guy who went head to head with Dr. Anthony Fauci, and Fauci had enough in the last meeting. Now, you would think Ron Paul has had a history of saying stuff worse, or maybe as worse as his Democratic counterparts. Do you see him stepping down anytime soon? No. Marjorie Taylor Greene has said multiple infractions. She has talked about Hitler. She's talked about the Jews. She has talked about Auschwitz. She has pretty much offended everybody at this point. Maybe about three other races, maybe about three other ethnic groups, but she's offended everybody else. Still in office. And I ask this question all the time. Why is it that when Democrats are caught, they'll eventually resign. That's fine. But when you get Republicans getting caught with their hands in the cookie jar, Newt Gingrich was found cheating on his wife at the time, still in office. There was I was gonna say for a second. Oh, Matt Gaetz. Let me not forget about Matt Gaetz. Remember Matt Gaetz, the guy who was allegedly accused of drug-filled sex parties with possibly underage women? Still in office, still campaigning, still getting money. I'm just saying and it's always interesting. It's always interesting to me when people go, well, they have to protect the integrity of the office. What integrity? I'm like, you got one side who's going to resign to do the right thing. You have the other side that's still campaigning like nothing's happening, like the party's still going. Please explain to me, because I don't get it. Because until I see Matt Gaetz, until I see Marjorie Taylor Greene, I still see Rand Paul handing their resignation papers. I don't see that happening anytime soon. That is just me. But before I get into why Rand Paul spreads information, I do want to point out that at your grocery store or at your clothing departments, or you just getting gas, you're probably wondering the prices are going up. Well, there's a reason for that.
Prices are going up on just about everything right now. They're 5.4% higher compared to a year ago overall, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And CNN's lead business writer, Matt Egan, is joining us to walk us through the numbers on what products, Matt, are we seeing inflation take the biggest toll?
Well, Anna, the price hikes just keep coming for Americans. Let me just give you a few examples of the kinds of sticker shock that people are experiencing right now. Women's dresses up about 19% in price over the last 12 months. Used cars and gasoline up 42%. Rental cars are up more than 73%. That means a rental car that was going for about $100 a day a year ago is now fetching around $175. Americans are also paying for more food at grocery stores. Apples and milk up 6% over the last 12 months. Fresh fruit up more than 8%. Meat up nearly 11%. We talked to one food distributor who services this grocery, and he said he's seeing incredible price increases.
Instead of a normal 2 to 3% increase, it could be a 10, 15, or 20% increase. So on my end, as a businessman, I've been doing this for 35 years. As far as I'm concerned, I'm scared to the point of, are they going to stop buying the product?
Well, we have to eat. So what can I say? A lot of times I have to compromise.
Of course, companies are paying workers more these days. Unfortunately, those fatter paychecks are not going as far because of inflation. In fact, compensation is now less than it was in December of 2019, adjusted for inflation, according to Harvard University.
In other words, everything's going up but your paycheck. But it's all one big house of cards, folks. And that's why I stand and say, if you have a plot of land right now that you're not using, or if you have a little bit of space, it's time to start growing your own vegetables, boys and girls. Because trust me, it's only going to. And again, President Biden did point this out a few weeks ago that it's going to be a little bit of a rough ride. Reason being, everything's a house of cards. You guys got to remember, a lot of people are still unemployed, trying to find jobs. A lot of jobs pre-pandemic are still not coming back. You still have a lot of jobs out there that are paying crappy, which was probably like $12 or less, that nobody's going to work. You have a whole, especially in the food and service industry, where a lot of fast food and restaurant places are experiencing the hit. You also have on the other side the semiconductor shortage out of Malaysia, because Malaysia got struck by COVID. And it's amazing how one country is holding the entire global auto world by hostage, because those semiconductor chips are used in those vehicles, which are currently gathering dust, which means they're not selling, which means on the other side of it all, used cars are going up, which means rental cars are going up. Why? Because now used cars and rental cars have a lot more value because they're running vehicles versus the ones that are unfinished sitting in factory yards right now. And on top of all of it, again, guys, you got to remember, people are ordering people are still what I say about paychecks and about food and about food benefits, unemployment, SNAP benefits are being reduced. So again, when you take all of that into consideration, prices are only increasing because demand is increasing, but supply is dwindling. Supply and demand, folks. And again, I asked this question. It's all one big house of cards. Imagine, and I say imagine wholeheartedly. I say imagine in the simple fact of the matter of, what if Americans were getting that $2,000 a month that Bernie Sanders talked about? What if we finally figure out a way to get Medicare for everyone? What if we finally did all these things before the pandemic really hit a sore spot, before we hit the lockdown procedures? We'd probably be in a different situation. We really would. But again, for now, we're going to have to ride this out, even though the infrastructure package got passed, but I'll talk about that shortly. But anyway, let's get to the reason why I was in a rant a little bit earlier. Because like I said, it never ceased to amaze me. I have this daily battle. Like I have this mission in my head that I have as a daily mantra. I want to fight misinformation. What I mean by misinformation, I mean I want to win over the alternative facts people. I want to bring them to the other side. I'm not trying to convert them. I'm just trying to bring them back to the common sense pool, because they wander out in this wilderness and they come back with the weirdest philosophies that honestly make no sense. Like, prime example, right? And I won't say their name. I'll keep this as anonymous as humanly possible. So, me and a buddy were having this conversation. He points out that, he puts this picture of two nurses, right? Nurses saying that we were needed during the pandemic, but now we're not needed because we won't get the shot, or something of that nature. And I sat there and said, and I posted under his Facebook, I posted under his social media. I sat there and said, well, it's just like me being sober. I don't want drunk drivers on the road. Now, it's a nice analogy. For a simple fact of the matter is, your choices affect others. That's the underlying analogy. That's the underlying statement of the analogy. So he turns around, and of course, like most folks, he's like, so do you think unvaccinated people are bad people? What about unvaccinated people? Should they be denied everywhere? What if they need treatment? Again, I like to call them deflections, because they're not hitting anything. Of course, unvaccinated people are the catalyst, because if it wasn't for them, we would have lower cases. If everybody was vaccinated, this got proven a little while back. When people started getting vaccinated, people started wearing masks, people were still doing social distancing, the cases lowered. And when the case is lowered, then you started to lower the lockdown procedures. It's all connected. And then I said, okay, and first off, unvaccinated people aren't prevented from going anywhere. Your issue is with business owners that are taking it, that like business owners are now making that choice of being, that you have to get vaccinated. It's mandatory vaccinations. And honestly, and I sat there and said, Biden saying that all federal workers need to be vaccinated is a great idea. Hospitals are all saying that all their personnel have to be vaccinated. For reasons right there alone should stop that conversation. Because if I'm sick or if I'm hurt and I'm in the hospital during the pandemic, I do not want anyone in there who works the hospital that is unvaccinated. I don't. That just screams a bigger biohazard waiting to happen in a closed off environment because that person can still spread the virus. So I turned around explaining all these things, the logical information. You know what they turn around telling me? Well, I just don't believe it because I don't trust where you get your information. Where'd you get yours? See, that's the thing. That's the thing about it, about this next clip that's going to explain it so well. This is the reason why I fight misinformation, because ignoring actual facts and statistics is honestly obliged ignorance. It really is. You decide to remain ignorant when the facts don't match what you believe. And that is the reason why we still have Trump people out there. But anyway, this article explains a lot better than me. So let's see it.
It's becoming clear the biggest issue underlying belief in mis and disinformation is about our own identities.
That's what disinformation does. It strikes at the heart and the core of people's anxieties and fears in a way that it knows will cause them to sort of respond in sort of predictable ways.
The kind of feedback that you're getting and the reinforcement is social reinforcement. And so it makes you think about, how are people going to like this? What's it going to say about me? Not, is it accurate?
People like being the ones who share information and share research, and then they share that information with the people who they care about.
Once you've already shared it, then you kind of feel like, and done so publicly, and now you're getting sort of publicly called out about it, there's some inclination to save face.
Everyone is susceptible to mis and disinformation. We think that other people are. They are, he is, she is, we're not. And this actually is called the third person effect. He, she, they are, I'm not.
If I'm wrong about this, if my assumptions about this are incorrect, then what about these other things that I believe?
When we think about why it is that people are susceptible to mis and disinformation in the first place, it actually has very little to do with the content of the information itself, and it has more to do with who we are, who we want to be, and the groups that we want to be a part of.
If you ask people how important is it to you to only share accurate information, almost everybody says it's very important. But if you ask them, how important do you think it is to your friends that they only share accurate information, people think it's less important to their friends.
Social media has absolutely exacerbated the ability to confirm one's own biases.
So the platforms themselves are already structured to fuel our emotional reflexive responses. The idea that you're going to like something or be angry by it or share it, all of that is designed to be done very quickly. And so when you are driven by speed, that is when you're going to use these shortcuts and not really engage with the substance of the information.
So even people who might think really carefully about accuracy in, say, the context of work, when they get on social media, can wind up making mistakes because that context is just focusing their attention on other things.
Social media in general are used in a way that's so fast and so reflexive and so automated that even under normal conditions, right, like pre-COVID, we tend to scroll really quickly and we tend to just look at headlines and make decisions quickly.
That the potential reach of misinformation is much more than just the people that saw it on Facebook, because they can also tell their friends, their family. They can also just share it on Facebook, out of whatever group they're in, into the greater community.
There is a real inability among a significant portion of the population to critically discern sources of information as being credible or not.
I have this piece of information. I'm trying to assess how accurate I think it is. And I have sort of two things that I can use to judge that. One is, how well does it fit with everything I already know? And the other one is, how reliable is the source that's telling it to me?
When you receive information that, especially information that comes from a trusted source or something that has been shared by someone who you like or care about, or someone who you want to be like, that is what's going to guide you more than the content of the information itself.
How well does this fit with everything else I know about the world? And if it fits reasonably well, then you're like, okay, that's probably true. And if it really doesn't fit with what you know about the world, then you're like, probably the source of that information is unreliable. It's more likely that the source is wrong than that everything I know about the world is wrong. If you ask people to stop and think about, is this true? Most people are actually pretty good at telling sort of like fake news from true news.
Getting people to think about why they want to think the things that they believe, that can be useful. Again, it can only be useful if it truly feels like it's coming from a place of curiosity and not judgment.
A lot of the time, if people don't stop and think and they just go with their gut response, they're inclined to believe things. And so getting people to stop and slow down, we've shown reduces their belief in false news, but not in true news.
The Biden economic plan is working.
Says a lot, doesn't it? And I can literally just drop the mic on that note. I can drop the mic on that note. And there's so much in psychology of it all. And I said, I remember watching that video. I was like, that explains Trump fans. That explains the Trump cult. That explains alternative facts. That explains this whole side of things as far as individuals not taking the truth. Because again, various reasons in the video that I explained. One of you guys are saying, hey, Brandon, they still won't take it. People are too stubborn or want to believe what they want. Yeah, I know. You're right. It's just for me, I have to fight that level. It's like, I know it's an uphill battle, but it's still a winnable battle. But I have to fight that level of misinformation because a lot of people do trust word of mouth. Word of mouth is still the fastest way of reaching out to people. And some folks out there still trust the fact of what they're being said or told by another person. So I do take it upon myself to try to curb that the best I can by actually doing this one little thing called facts and citing sources, because if anything from a college education has taught me, you should definitely find reliable sources and be able to back up what you say. So I will still continue that fight. I did want to talk about the package. Joe Biden did actually accomplish is about to accomplish, I'd say, one of the two things, especially his nearly $1 trillion infrastructure package, which did actually pass the Senate.
Bipartisanship on Capitol Hill, now pushing one leg of President Biden's two-pronged approach to infrastructure in Congress.
On this vote, the yeas are 69, the nays are 30. The bill, as amended, is passed.
Several Republicans joining every Democrat in the Senate, giving final approval to the $1.1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package, which includes $550 billion in new spending.
It's been a long and winding road, but we have persisted, and now we have arrived.
The plan sets aside $110 billion for roads and bridges, $39 billion for public transit, and $65 billion to expand broadband internet.
We can do big things on a bipartisan basis if we put our minds to it.
The bipartisan plan now heads to the House, where Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Democrats won't take up the measure until a companion budget spending bill also clears the Senate. Monday, Senate Democrats unveiling that $3.5 trillion budget blueprint, hoping to fill it with progressive priorities like money for social safety net programs left out of the bipartisan plan. Details include universal pre-K, free 2-year college tuition, expanding Medicaid to cover dental, vision, and hearing aids, and resources to address climate change. Senate Democrats plan to use a budgetary tool called reconciliation that requires only 50 votes to pass. But it won't be easy. They will need all 50 Democrats in the Senate and almost all in the House to back the effort. Republicans say the package is too expensive and will increase the risk of inflation.
This new reckless taxing and spending spree will fall like a hammer blow on workers and middle-class families.
And so what's next? Well, the Senate now begins work on that budget spending bill. They hope to be done sometime in September and send that as well over.
So pretty much nowhere. I no offense, if you've been on the road, especially here in Tennessee, Tennessee's roads are good and terrible. Even now near my place. They're working on the interstate. At least I don't know what they're doing on the interstate, but I know they're fixing something. I definitely know it's not the potholes. But America's infrastructure is woefully in need of repair. Bridges, roads, exactly right. We should have broadband internet almost everywhere at this point, and I'm still waiting on my trans rail system. I am still waiting on a rail system that if I hopped on a train here in Tennessee, I should be able to go to California. Why is it that we are if arguably not the most advanced country in the world, that we still don't have a rail system that connects the Pacific to the Atlantic? Make it make sense, because I'm still hoping for that. I'm still hoping that I'm hoping that for sometime in my lifetime we actually do get this universal system where we're not dependent upon planes to get us over large distances in a short amount of time. I'm still hoping for that. Not because I'm a terrible flyer. It's because, well, yeah, I hate flying. But still, I like to be able to hop on a train and say, look, I would like to be in New York in 4 hours, or I would like to be in California in 5 hours, or I would like to be in Montana, Montana, California, Texas, corners of the world. Corners of the world is a little bit, it's still corners of the U.S. I would love to travel in, and would love to do it by high speed rail. I swear, I mean, it's not impossible, which is still amazing to me that we are still saying this. It's not impossible for a high speed rail system to happen, but the investment has to be done. There has to be a generation that takes on the investment of getting this built. Just like the bridges and roads need to be repaired. Just like we need to finally make broadband happen everywhere. Our IT infrastructure is woefully needing an upgrade. Even more so, it can be done. But it's amazing to me that Republicans on the other side of things are always going to be the main ones crying about spending. We're going to spend ourselves and add more to the deficit, not realizing the last 4 years they've added more to the deficit than the last two presidents combined. The point I'm making out of all this is, guys, is just that, long story short, it is going to be a while before we actually see some progress on that. But to sit there and think that the Republicans are going to help out, well, we're going to hold on that pipe dream. But anyway, some other news coming out of the pandemic, that for all those who have immunosuppressant or immuno issues with getting the vaccine, there may actually have some approval coming the way for you guys to get a vaccine too. Check it out.
Out to approve a third vaccine dose for people with compromised immune systems. Sources telling NBC News Pfizer and Moderna's vaccines could get that approval tomorrow. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joining me now. Dr. Patel, that would be the first authorization of a booster shot here in the U.S. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Allison. So listen, we've needed this guidance for a while because, as you've talked about before, there are already Americans who have been getting these booster shots without recommendations and doing it kind of illicitly, candidly. So I think it's well-heeded advice, but I'm also balancing it, Allison, with the call from the world to actually try to vaccinate as many people with first shots as possible. I'm really hoping that America can do both, and I believe it can.
Well, they'll be turning.
So, long story short, pretty much I think it's a great idea. Now, trust me when I say those who have immunocompromised, those with lupus, those with other blood diseases or things of that nature that are actually having those issues that could not get the Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson. This is actually great because that means that now we can start to cover those Americans that were more worried about taking the vaccine just because they were in a more extreme condition. I think it's a great idea, but I will say this for all those who are fitting into that category. Please, oh please, and I say this with all the please in the world, please check with your physician first before taking the vaccine. Please check with your visit, please check with your doctor, ask plenty of questions, find out all the information you can before taking the vaccine. That right there makes the difference. Please do not go to quack.com or whatever you go in to look at stuff. Please ask your doctors, because those guys are trying to help those guys out and prevent burnout on their side by making sure that you're getting the right information from the right source and being able to make the best decision for you. Because again, when it comes to the vaccine, guys, it's no longer going to affect just you. It's going to affect everyone. And speaking of things that are going to affect everyone, I know by now everybody's child, if you have a child that's old enough to go to school, has probably either had their first day of school or their third day of school by now. And yes, we are still trying to have school in a pandemic. I can go off the bat and say this was a terrible idea from Jump Street, and yet remote learning should still be in place. That being said, however, Florida is still the reigning champs of Hold My Beer, as Governor DeSantis has said, Governor DeSantis has laid out some interesting things about those that will not follow his banning the mask policy from schools.
Rocky Hanna and some school board members were ready to put their paychecks on the line to protect the health and safety of Leon County school children. Superintendent Hanna read a letter from Commissioner Richard Corcoran with the Florida Department of Education informing school leaders
that the department withhold funds in an equal amount to the salaries for the superintendent of schools and all members of the school board.
This if district leaders enforced a mask mandate with no opt-out. Just prior to the meeting, parents would have had to provide a physician's signature to opt their child out of mask wearing, which at least one parent says has proven difficult.
The doctor's offices are being bombarded with parents calling. I have called multiple times trying to get through, and they're blanketly saying they're not addressing any issues, regardless of circumstances.
With parents facing this roadblock and district leaders potentially having to go without pay, Superintendent Hanna looked for the best way to stay within state law while keeping schools safe.
Masks are required K-12.
Right.
Parents have to parents have to sign the document to opt their child out so we can monitor who has parental consent.
And as school begins in a few short hours, Hanna says,
wear a mask tomorrow morning. If it's an issue, fine. If it's not, and it's a matter of convenience, or if it's a matter of something outside of a medical issue or anxiety, then we are begging and pleading to wear a mask.
Parents have until next Monday, August 16th, to complete and return the opt-out form to their child's school.
Crazy, isn't it? That so many parents are literally and figuratively wanting their kids not to wear a mask. And it for no reason. I mean, aside from the crazy thing they say masks don't work, they're following again that misinformation I pointed out not too long ago. And you would think that's Florida, right? Florida, of all places. You know, the king of Hold My Beer, Florida man, and all the crazy stories come with it. No. You want to know why they have stiff competition? Tennessee has just put their name in the ring, especially in rich Williamson County in Middle Tennessee, because this was the aftermath of Williamson County school board members who decided on mask mandates for all schools, and they were greeted by, as Fox News would like to call it, peaceful protesters.
And everybody's taking notes, buddy. Keep that little smug.
Put it back on. Put your mask on.
Poor kids sucking that bacteria. How you like that?
Put your mask on.
Then we know who you are. We know who you are.
Keep it calm.
No more masks.
Keep it calm. Keep it calm.
No more masks.
We're on these guys' side. They're on our side.
No, they're not. They're not on our side.
The police are on our side. The police are on our side. Let's calm down.
Yes.
Calm down.
We
know who you are.
We know who you are.
You can leave
We
freely,
know who you are.
but we will find you, and we know
You will
who
never
you are.
be allowed in
We
public
know who
again.
You are.
You will never be allowed.
I
You
know
never
who
let
you
it be
are.
allowed in public
I know
again.
who you are. I know who you are. Let him out. Let's let him out.
Whoa! You better watch out. You better watch out.
Keep it calm.
You better watch out.
Keep it calm. Everybody back up, please. Everybody back up. Back up. Back up. I'm back, man. I'm on your side.
Please, back up.
I'm a parent.
Get out. Give me a lane.
Watch out. Please.
You're good. Let him in peace.
if it was up to the queen of the raccoon community, Candace Owens, she would sit there and say they're spirited people. But again, that's not surprising. That's Williamson County, or as I call it, Rich Folks County, because that's one of the wealthier counties in Middle Tennessee. Was those people freaking out because the board over there voted that masks should be worn for kids while in school. And they were greeted by Williamson County residents peaceful. Right. And when you hear, we know who you are, we will find you, you'll never be allowed in public again. Again, that just shows you the stupidity of it all from these people. I'm like, you don't like it? Here's my thing. If you want your kid to be maskless in a school that requires masks, homeschool or find a school that suits you. But if the county decides that, hey, masks need to be worn in school, you can't argue that. But you have alternatives. But again, it never ceases to amaze me where, people just like, we don't want to go back to being locked down. Okay. Very simple. Get vaccinated. Wear a mask. Help us get the cases down. And guess what? You'll still be able to go to your drunk pedal taverns. You'll still be able to have your bridal showers downtown and be as annoying as you want to be. You can go back to whatever that sense of normalcy is if you just basically do what we've all been doing. What the majority of us have been doing, which is simply do what for others. That's it. How hard is that? Yeah, my head. Yeah, you're right, Brandon. My head hurts too from watching people that they act like animals. And I know, Kelly. Oh my God. You know what I said? Not to go off topic, but the best line to explain the state of America right now had to be Joker in The Dark Knight, where he sat there and said, if you break down people to their basic instincts, they will surely show you what they are. And they are animals. They will slaughter each other if it means they get ahead. Even though, completely fictional character, true line. But again, with also that being said, also, quote Men in Black, people are smart. Humans are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. So, both lines fit. But anyway, there is another reason why I'm putting Tennessee on the map. Because just like you have Williamson County out there fighting masks, there's also another county all the way up in Northeast Tennessee that is honestly fighting the same thing. And again, history repeats itself.
Is already seeing the effects of sending kids back to class without masks. Washington County schools are now reporting new cases among students and staff. NBC News Now correspondent Dasha Burns joins us from the Appalachian Highlands in Washington County, that's in the northeastern corner of Tennessee. So, Dasha, schools reopened there a little over a week ago. Tell us a little more about how that's impacted COVID cases so far.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, a little over a week into schools reopening. We've got drop-off happening behind me right now, long line of cars. But already, Joe, just so soon after school started back up again, Washington County yesterday reported 50 positive cases among students and staff and 194 students and staff currently in quarantine. That's even a jump, Joe, from the day before when they had 41 positive cases and 169 quarantining. So those numbers are ticking up. And in this region of the Appalachian Highlands, the hospital system here, Ballad Health, told me that yesterday of their positive cases that they saw in their service area, 29% of them were those under the age of 18. But at this point, even with these numbers, I just spoke to the superintendent of Washington County Schools. They are still not implementing a mask mandate. They are recommending masks. There's not really a social distancing requirement. They are requiring those who test positive quarantine, but those who are exposed to those who test positive, there's not really a strong requirement for quarantining. It's recommended, but not necessarily something that parents and students have to do. And at this point, they say they are reevaluating every day, but at this point, still not looking to change those policies at any time soon, Joe.
So, Dasha, I know you spoke to the mother of 2 elementary school kids who are too young to get vaccinated right now because they're under 12. What are her biggest concerns?
Well, the parents are being put in a tough position from what I'm hearing right now of having to weigh the balance of risking their children's emotional, mental, and educational well-being by keeping them out of school, or risking their physical health by keeping them in school when there are so few safety protocols. The mom I spoke to, Nana McKinney, she has 2 children, a first grader and a kindergartner. That kindergartner is immunocompromised, and she is terrified, frankly. Every day when she sends him through those doors, she's concerned and she's anxious, and she has seen him sick before, and she does not want to go through that again. Joe, I want you to hear what she had to say. Take a listen.
We spent a very long time in the hospital when he was younger, and those were very difficult days. And I definitely do not want to relive that, nor would I want anybody to experience that. And so the Delta variant of COVID does scare me for that reason.
And you've seen it before.
I have seen it. I have seen him fight, and I have seen him struggle. And there's nothing that you can do. And it's hard. It's hard.
You know, Joe, the school districts here are really emphasizing a personal choice, that parents have the choice of what to do with their own child, how to protect their own child. But for parents like Nana, she sends her kids to school in masks. But once they walk through those doors, it's out of her hands. And if her kindergartner, her first grader, takes the mask off because her friends don't have masks on, teachers aren't required to tell them to put those masks back on. So she really feels kind of helpless at this point. And that's what I've been hearing from some other parents who are concerned about this as well.
Yeah, she represents so many parents and families around the country with immunocompromised kids. All right, Dasha, thanks so much for your reporting. Appreciate it.
Crazy, ain't it? That's just that. Watch. I had to look this up because I didn't remember what kind that was. That's literally at the borderline between North Carolina and Virginia, and that's one county that no mask, cases jump. People already quarantined, and yet Williamson County, for me, right next door, Williamson County, they're wanting those masks off. And Williamson County is a lot bigger than that county up in the Northeast. Could you imagine if they turned around and did the same thing? Again, people don't understand that your consequences affect others. You be unvaccinated affects others. Cases will still increase. The hospital system will still be pushed to critical people. Doctors and nurses may get burned out and just may quit the profession. And then what? What happens when we already have a shortage of nurses out there. Do you really want a shortage of physicians, of surgical technicians, radiologists? I can go down of all hospital personnel. Do you really want shortages like that out there with that going on right now? Just saying. What are you guys saying? Honestly, I thought you were going to show the Mount Juliet pastor. Oh, that idiot. If you know what, if anybody deserves, and I don't wish COVID on anybody, but if anybody needs to be struck down with righteous whatever, it's that guy. I don't understand why they are fighting the mask so hard. Ignorance. They are literally protecting your children from potential exposure. Yes, Kelly, you're exactly right. Let one of those kids get sick or a mass COVID outbreak happen while they weren't wearing a mask, they will be crying tragedy, asking why more. Well, that's the thing I've been telling people. I have been saying this from Jump Street. I've realized now that the only way people are going to pay attention and do the right things, is that they damn near have to have 1 foot in the grave and be at death's door before they realize, oh crap, give me the vaccine. There's hundreds of stories out there just like that. There's hundreds of stories out there where they literally, the guy or woman sits there and says, I should have paid attention. That just goes to show you how easily misinformation is accepted. I talked about my Off Limits podcast about a couple of weeks ago, that people take misinformation because it's comfortable. Very few people like the truth because the truth is uncomfortable. It makes you uncomfortable, but it also makes you aware. That's the big difference. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on to our feel good segment, guys, because usually on How the Fact We Got Here, we usually cover a lot of things, both doom and gloom, and sometimes it makes you kind of, kind of depressed. You take the wind out of your sails, makes you lose faith in humanity. But what we try to do is actually try to find one story and just to fill you up, because we know this is hump day, it's Wednesday, but we want to put you guys on the right notes. Tomorrow's Friday, which is Thursday, so we're trying to bring some positivity, get you happy about some things, look forward to the weekend or wherever things may happen. And in this case, I've always sat there and said about random acts of kindness and how they help people. Like I said before, you have the ability to make somebody's life great, whether it's a minute, a day, or an hour, or a lifetime. Go ahead and do it. The world could use more random acts of kindness. And in this case, this guy went above and beyond for a piano player that he did not see coming.
Finally tonight, America Strong, a chance encounter and the life-changing gift from total strangers.
Tony Valentine Carter has been playing the piano for 6 decades. His stage for the last 7 years, a corner of Concourse A at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta.
People love having live music. They've had a weary travel day, and they're not expecting this. And it just changes everything. I love this job.
On Thursday, Tony's playing caught the attention of Carlos Whitaker, an Instagram influencer with more than 200,000 followers. Tony telling Carlos about his long battle with kidney disease.
The second he told me that he's on dialysis 9 hours a night, wakes up every morning, and goes and plays the piano for tips for 4 hours, I go, this brother's about to get a big tip.
Carlos so captivated by Tony's story, he wanted to make a difference and asked his followers to help.
Let's go. That's it right there.
Let's see how much we can raise in 45 minutes for this saint of a human. During a break, Carlos delivers the amazing news.
So I put my Venmo out there, and in 35 minutes, I need to let you know that I'm about to give you $10,000. They just deposited $10,000. They? 170,000 strangers that loved your piano playing, and I asked them to give you money. Oh, man. You deserve this, bro. Your wife deserves this. I don't even know you, but I love you.
Days later, that tip would grow to more than $70,000. The kindness of strangers changing one piano man's life forever.
You don't have to say nothing. I love you. I got to catch my flight. Take care of that wife. You right here. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Beautiful story. Power of social media.
Yeah, power of social media and the power of giving. And again, I love stories like that. Random acts of kindness. You'd be surprised. I never get tired of that. Because all it takes is one person to actually do something for somebody and it catches on. It's spontaneous. It's great. And at the end of the day, you change somebody's life. That's a drop the mic moment. That's almost like, that's it, kid. I'm good. But with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for our podcast. I do thank you all for watching, who liked, who commented, who let people know that I was up and running. I do thank you from the bottom of my heart. It definitely does help me out to know that people are watching this and taking lessons from it. That being said, I do got to do some shameless plugging before I do get out of here. I do want to start first with my podcasting brother in arms, Big VZA Dodd, who actually has a couple of podcasts of his own. You can definitely check him out. Avon Witherspoon on Facebook, at Big VZA Dodd on all socials. His first one is Smoking Trailer Sundays, in which he shows trailers of new movies and video games he finds interesting and wants to let people know about. every Sunday from 6:30 to 9. He also has the RAF podcast, which is like America's Funniest Home Videos, except done by World Star, every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Definitely check out his Facebook, A. Lavon Witherspoon, and of course, Big BZA down on all socials for any upcoming news about podcasts that he definitely will be doing. Aside from that, guys, I do want to also shout out to my friends, Ari and Guy, Geek Salad. If you don't know who they are, they're actually a couple of other great guys as well. You can definitely find them on YouTube at Ari and Guy Presents Geek Salad. I definitely want to shout them out because they're doing a lot of great content over there. Terrific set of guys, and of course, as our podcasting world, our community grows ever bigger, I definitely want to point them out. Definitely give them a listen, like, share, and subscribe as well. As for yours truly, the link at the bottom, if you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree for all of my podcasts. Their YouTube and Facebook group links will be showing there for all of my podcasts, How the Fact We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, the Ultimates Podcast. The IG, which is right here, BlockFox447 is my Instagram, so definitely follow there as I usually show reviews and things of that nature, and sometimes gym stuff because I do try to work out. I'm in a shape, but I'm not in shape. But I'm getting to the in shape part. I just need to get out of the out of shape part first. But definitely like and follow. And of course, all my podcast schedule is still in the same. Every Wednesday, we of course do the midweek review, How the Fact We Got Here. This Friday will be a solo edition, just me of Get Bit Podcast, my video game and an anime podcast that I cover. Of course, on Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon is the weekend edition of How the Fact We Got Here. We usually cover news that's happened Thursday and up. And of course, a little bit later on Saturdays is the Ultimates Podcast, in which we talk about anything and everything. And I do mean anything and everything. So, with that being said, guys, the last thing I'll say is, before as we wrapping this up, COVID is real. I don't know how much more times I can say it. I keep hoping for the podcast where I don't have to say it anymore. I keep hoping for that podcast where I can sit there and say we finally conquered COVID. I keep hoping because we still have a lot of people out there that aren't doing what needs to be done, and I'm gonna keep advocating, keep saying you need to get vaccinated. I am going to keep saying that you should wear a mask. I am going to keep saying that you should do social distancing. I'm going to keep saying that you may want to avoid large crowds just because you don't know who else may or may not be vaccinated. But I'm just saying, and of all of this, your consequences, your choices and consequences affect others more than not just you, but others. So I always tell people, keep this in mind when you're out and about, because you're going to interact with people, and those interactive people, you don't know who they interacted with, but you definitely know who you're going to interact with. So if you're interacting with family and friends, keep that in mind when you're out and about wearing a mask and not protecting yourself. It's just that simple. Aside from that, like I said before, I'm going to have to go. I've been a little bit lax in saying this, so I need to bring up saying this again. People that are really need the shout outs right now. Doctors, nurses aid, doctors aides, environmental people, those that work in hospitals who are reaching burned out or feel drained or just really ready to walk away from those professions. I hope you don't. You are needed. You are valued. I hope you get the rest and the break you need, because you certainly deserve it. Thank you for your dedication and your service. Also, first responders, 911 operators, you guys also need the breaks as well. I hope you guys get it. And all those workers who do come in, I'm talking those of the service industry, not only of the service and hospitality industry, but if you come in and you know you're short-staffed, I'm starting to see this sound a lot more, and I'm going to start saying it a lot more. Be kind to the people who are still working in fast food and in hotels and gas stations, things of that nature. Keep in mind, a lot of people are not working, but there are some people who are still coming in to short-staffed, high-traffic situations that are already going to be dealing with the worst of the human condition. The least you can do is be nice, be courteous, help them out. Help their day be a lot easier by you being a more aware person. Because honestly, it's the right thing to do. But the last thing I'll say about I almost said off limits. I'm thinking about a subject for off limits. That's the reason why I said it. I apologize. The last thing I'll say about How the Fact We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not out here to change minds or persuade you or do anything of that nature. We are simply out here trying to give you the information that you need to allow you to make up your own mind. We do a lot better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We do the things and right wrongs of the past that we try to make right for the future, like electing our first Madam Vice President who was black, still for Michelle Obama in 2024. So, with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for me. Thank you all for watching. If you're watching this to the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know you guys' opinion on a lot that I said, especially my earlier rant. I'm giving people who, again, I'm mostly unvaccinated people who are disagreeing with me right now. This is the open lane for you can talk to me on, guys. I will talk back. Now, again, understand it's a debate. I understand we're having an open conversation. It's debate. Cool. But if you're coming at me with nonsense, I am going to point it out. You don't like the you come to a logical debate with nonsense. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just gonna poke holes to it like a Swiss cheese. But aside from that, guys, please take care of yourselves and each other. We'll get through this. Thank you all for watching. That's gonna do it for me. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your weeks. And I will see you. Hopefully see you guys Friday for Get Bit Podcast. Peace.